Good evening and welcome to the Yvener Show. I am your host, Yvener Duroseau, and I have my co host, Dr. Marie Celestine, with us this wonderful evening. And I know in some places it's cold
Yes.
and it's still in the 40s here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And how about in Massachusetts, Dr. Marie? What's the weather like for you?
It is barely 20 degrees. Tropical heat
Well,
in
you can keep that.
January. Look, we went from single to double. That's exciting. Okay.
You can keep that. How about you, Miss Clemmons?
It's fairly cold here. We've had another dump of snow
Mm,
yesterday, to include on what happened on Monday. So
see?
Oh,
us
goodness.
educators are happy.
Goodness,
Winter.
goodness.
Winter.
Yeah.
Well, this evening is going to be fun. It's going to be a very fun evening as we're going to have this conversation with Miss LaTasha Clemmons. She has a wonderful story, and I cannot wait to hear your story and how you use your story to make a difference in your writing and in other young people's life. And as you talk about your childhood and I part of your bio that I read, you grew up in poverty and you had a mom addicted to drugs, but you did not let this affect you too much in your adulthood. You decided to make a difference in your life and in other people's life uh, using your writing, your book, which you wrote, which you will learn more about soon. All right. And we are broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Twitch,
Mm. Like one more. Is there another one? And YouTube.
YouTube. Yes, YouTube. And if you're watching live on YouTube or any of those platforms, the best thing that you can do for us content creators is to subscribe and like and share this live with your friends and others that you may know because this content, Miss Clemens' story, will touch your lives and as it will touch my life and Dr. Murray's life as well. So we're so excited to have you. I am super excited, LaTasha. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
This is the show where we share a lot of energy. This is why we call the show Human Energy. All
I
right.
love it.
So, one of the first questions that I always ask, and again, this is the big magic question: Who is LaTasha Clemmons?
I am a person who I work in education. That's my career path. Um, as I my It's always been my dream to be a journalist, to be a writer. As I went through my years as being an educator, it dawned on me that these children experience the same things that I've experienced. Um, they have a story to tell. Their story is similar to mine. I'm an athlete. I'm a female. I'm a woman. I'm a black woman. I don't necessarily get caught up in the categories, but people will describe me as a lesbian. Um, they want to box you in and put you into this person or this place that people want you to format in society. But I'm a person, and I realize my story is everyone's story, regardless of the differences and the similarities. But I grew up in poverty. Um, I am this person who has dealt with a lot of the things that the children I work with have encountered, but somehow, some way, some form, I persevered. I made it. What made me get there? Education, mentors, athletics, sports. And so as I work with these children every single day, I realize that I'm the same person that they are. And regardless of my circumstances, I was able to coming to a place of where I felt successful. I made it. I didn't allow my circumstances to hold me back. And so it's always been my passion, my goal, excuse me, to teach the children that I work with, regardless of where you come from or what happens, what your circumstances are, you can be and do anything that you want to do. You can be any person that you want to be. And that has driven me within my work, within my career, to give these children a dream, a hope to kind of, circumvent their circumstances to be able to do whatever it is they want to do. And so I'm a lot of things. I'm an avid reader. I'm an athlete. I love sports. I love my family. I am a person, but in life, you have to be able to kind of persevere and do the things that you want to do. And it's always been about paying it forward.
Mm.
Wow, that is powerful. You are multifaceted.
Yes, ma'am.
So many hats. And to be able to say that and defining your own self, because the kids are being defined, adults are being defined, but I think because they're seeing themselves through you and they know who you are, they come where you come from, I think they're able to feel like there is hope. I think this show we're always talking about hope in terms of that's always a possibility in spite of your circumstances. And so were you always this way? Is it something that you developed as you grew up?
Um, I think moving through life, you don't know. You don't know who you are, what you're capable of, what your purpose is until you actually come into a place to where you have to define what you want to do in life.
Mhm.
I did not seek education as my career path. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to write. I My circumstances was I moved from South Carolina to Maryland, and I needed a job. I had to be able to survive. My father told me get into education. At the end of the day, regardless of if you have a degree, anyone can get into education, and it's crazy because moving out of education into a different career field it's almost impossible. But if you do anything else in life, you can move into a career of education. And once I got into teaching English, is what I did for the first 9 years of my career. I realized, hey, I have a voice. I am this person that people look up to, children look up to. Um, and it reminded me of my growing up in education, what it took for me to be able to kind of surpass the difficulties and the challenges that I had. It was educators. It was being in a realm where people believed in me. And so once I kind of accepted that, it was natural for me because it took educators to help me to understand that, hey, I'm worthy. I can do something different. I can be who I need to be and who I want to be on the strength of the teachers and the other educators that kind of took a hold of me. It took that for me to understand that I had something to give. And so when I became an adult and I realized these children are experiencing the same experiences that I had, it wasn't anything forced. It just became natural. Okay, like, let me help you or be that role model or that mentor. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. You just have to work towards it. And that's kind of what pushed me and compelled me or propelled me to be the person that I was. And I realized, it was natural. And you don't really experience that right then and there, but to move forward in life and to kind of encounter children. And I never remember their names. It's thousands of children who I might see on the train or I might see in different neighborhoods. Hey, Miss Cook, that was my name before I got married. You helped me do X, Y, and Z. And it's unfortunate. Like I don't like where do I know you from? But it's always a reminder of the work that I have done and I continue to do. That what you're doing makes a difference. And it's always like it's motivational, regardless of how difficult it gets. You are making an impact on a child's life the same way someone made in your life. And so it just becomes, you just do it because that's what you do.
Wow, wow, that is powerful. Now, how was it like growing up? And obviously, as you expressed in the first few minutes, you want to be uh, someone that you did not have growing up, for children. So how was it like growing up? Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
So I'm from the South. Um, and again, I was raised by grandmothers and aunts who instilled in me what was instilled in them. Um, I never negate or refute the fact that what I was taught was valuable. However, if you look at the historical aspect of being from the South, from South Carolina, and it goes way back to like slavery, the diaspora. What my family was taught is what they instilled in me. And it doesn't necessarily mean what they taught me was wrong, but I'm being taught things that were taught to them, that was taught to their family from a place of submission. And so I grew up in religion. I grew up in a submissive facet where the church ruled everything. Do as I say, not as I do. Nothing that propelled education as an escape. I was taught what they knew, what my family knew. And so I feel like I missed, or it wasn't taught to me that in order to be successful, you have to be educated. These are the facets of life that will allow you to propel out of the situation that you are in. And so my family did the best that they could, but I feel like what I missed out of all of that was you have to kind of remove yourself from this place of submission. You have to understand what society is about and how to kind of remove yourself from this complacentness, right? And so I say that to say that the values and the morals that I got, yes ma'am, no sir, thank you, please, all of that is needed. You clean up behind yourself. You are respectful. You stay in a place to where you don't meddle in adults' affairs. But I think what I missed from that was to gain your own knowledge and your own understanding of what life has to offer, because my family came from a place to where they didn't know any better. Education wasn't a major accomplishment. They taught me what they knew. And so religion, God is everything. Heaven and hell and cleanliness next to godliness, respect your elders, don't question, don't do this and don't do that. And so had I not come to a place of questioning what I was taught, if I did not have the knowledge that I sought and that I received from the books that I read, and understanding there's a whole different place and a whole different society and a whole different way of being outside of what I taught, I would have never known those things. And so I'm forever grateful for what was instilled in me as a child. But what I wrote in my book is it wasn't exactly accurate. I would have only been in that place had I not sought something different, had I not questioned, had I not looked forward to anything else. And so as I read and as I became educated, I realized that what was right in front of me wasn't the end all be all. And I think there are so many people, and especially children, who just soak that in and take that in. That's all they understand without seeking knowledge outside of what they are taught. They don't receive the vast differences that are available to them. And so once I did that, yes, I started to question what I was taught, what my family gave to me, and I started to notice some differences, right? This ain't it. This is not everything. There's so much more. And the more I saw it and the more I read, the more I learned, I realized that my family was only teaching me what they knew. There was something that they were missing. And it made a difference, because now I want to see what those differences are. I love my childhood. It was a fairy tale. It was everything that you wanted to be. But once reality started to hit home, it didn't. It started to feel like it became suffocating. It became, oh my God, there's so much more. What happens if I don't get out of this? If I don't seek more? If I don't know more? If I don't need more? If I don't understand more. And the more I understood, the more I realized they taught me what they taught me, but they didn't teach me how to know more.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's what I want other children to understand. There's so much more than what you are taught.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. I think in a way you were yearning and hungry for more, right? Sort of beyond your blog, beyond where you live, beyond again your circumstances. Because sometimes we get paralyzed and think this is it, right? But you were able to imagine there must be a different way of being, a different way of becoming who you wanted to be at that time, right? Beyond what you
Mm-hmm.
were able to see and knowing within yourself that you can create that, right? And I love that you have creativity as an outlet with the writing. Were you always writing as a little kid?
No, absolutely not. I
No.
read as a child. But what it was for me, I was born in 81. And as I grew, that 90s nostalgia, the culture, the music, BT, the movies, TV shows, everything that isn't in 2021, I was able to learn lessons from Family Matters and Full House, from Steve Urkel, or from Public Enemy, from KRS-One, from Queen Latifah. You know, the things that don't exist today.
Mhm.
It brought an awareness. Spike Lee, it brought an awareness. There's something vast. Let's go discover that. It wasn't just about what we hear today, the drugs and the violence, and it was all about black empowerment. And so I wanted to know more about that. And so I soaked it in. I just let it become a part of me. The books that I read wasn't necessarily a part of my culture. It gave me different aspects on other people's lives. The sports that I played, and I talk about in my book, I played with white people. It gave me a glimpse into their society that allowed me to understand that there was something different. But my own culture brought a part of there is black empowerment. There's something more. Why are we fighting the power?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so it just made me want to learn more. And that's what I did.
Wow. 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 And you get the audience so excited.
Yeah.
They're sending you.
Chat is blowing up. They want to know more.
It's blowing up, and they're just sending you flowers. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa.
That's great. I'm appreciative. Thank you.
And please be patient with us, so we will get some of the
Like, we get to the
questions.
question.
We're gonna. So you talk about having mentors and teachers. Uh, can you tell us about some of your mentors? Are there people that still alive today that you still look up to?
Absolutely. So in Carolina Girl, I speak of a time period to where I was in school,
Mhm.
and I moved from my childhood neighborhood into a predominantly white neighborhood. And I felt in that space that it was like the peak of my mother's drug addiction. No one cared about me. No one took the time to get to know me. And if you are in a career facet, you understand the importance of relationships. No one did that for me. Um, but I got expelled from school. So I left that area and I was out of school from January to June. And then I went back to school in the neighborhood that I grew up in. My mother got herself together. She moved us back into the schools that I was expelled from. And there were two white teachers that I talk about in this book who kind of took me under their wing. They saw something in me, is what I understand today as an adult. I saw something in you. I knew you were better than what you kind of portrayed. If it wasn't for Miss Teague and Miss Taylor, who advocated for me, who they, when I went back to the school, they put me in these low level classes because of behavior. And these teachers went to the guidance counselors and to the powers that be and said, this child doesn't belong here. She's running circles around these children. And so they spoke up for me. And not only did they speak up for me, they showed concern and care and love and compassion. And if you work in an educational setting, that's really all children need,
Mhm.
is someone to show that they care.
Care.
And at first, I did everything for them. They care enough about me to help me. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to study. I'm going to pass your test. I'm going to do my homework because you did what you did to help me. And then it came into a place because they were so just they put their arms around me. Now I understand I can do this for myself. My mentors are my teachers. I was suspended from school the day of basketball tryouts. I'm a basketball player. I received a scholarship to a D1 university, the University of South Carolina. I transferred to South Carolina State. And so I went to college because of a talent. That talent would not have been received or seen if it was not for those middle school teachers. And so you have coaches who are mentors. You have people who pay for your tournaments, who pay for you to travel, who pay for your tennis shoes, and you have other people that you play with who have the same aspirations and goals and ambition as you do. And so I soaked all of that in because I had that environment around me at this point to where there's something more than what I saw. And so when you look at educators, when you look at coaches, when you look at teammates, when you look at family members of those people that you play with who take you under their wing and they feed you and they hold you and they show that they love you. And my mother was able to, get herself together. All of those people are my mentors and my role models because they encouraged and motivated me to be the best person that I could be. And so I would never be here without teachers and coaches and teammates, friends, family members of those friends, if it wasn't, for that place that I was in. But at the end of the day, I could never have that unless something came into me to say, this is what I need to do. And so I'm forever grateful for all of my coaches and teachers and going into high school, my high school coach, my college coach. Like it just when they say it takes a village, those are the villagers that help you persevere. And it's all of those people who saw something in me that allowed me to persevere and be at the pinnacle of where I'm at right now.
Yes, we use that very often. I was born in Haiti. The village, raising by the village, is something that we use so often, and I think in today's society we're missing the village, or the village is there, we just don't see the village, or we don't pay attention to the village. The media, social media, be the village. So we let TV shows be the village. So I think what you're saying is so important to understand the value of the village. Now, do you think your mother didn't care about you?
My mother loves me to death. My mother is a mother who, once I started to understand her background, and children can't do that, right? I'm an adult now. I have to understand her circumstances, her situation. My mother went through things that were far worse than what I went through. Her experience, she was born in 57. So you could imagine with the times of the 50s, in the circumstances. My grandmother was a professional wrestler who was on the road often, who wasn't able to raise her children until they became teenagers. My mother was in the care of her mother's siblings. My mother did the best that she could for us. And what I realized as I got older was once my mother had children, we were the only thing she's ever had in her life. And so she did what she knew to do. And because we were the most valuable pieces of her life, and she wasn't taught or she didn't understand how to, I guess, raise us, she did the best that she could. I know my mother loves me to the depths of her soul. As an adult, you understand what addiction is and what addiction does to a person. So I in the beginning, I didn't know that. I blamed my mother. I no longer blame my mother. I blame the addiction. I blame her circumstances. I blame what she didn't know. You understand? And so there's nothing about what happened to me as a child that I can say, well, my mother knew better. She should have did better. My mother had her own issues. She did her best to kind of, fix those things. She did her best to kind of like, make amends with things, but she's a person that has to work with her own demons. And so, no, I don't blame my mother. I blame the drug dealer. I blame the drugs. I blame, once I got older, I blame the country, the powers that be, to allow Contra and that war on drugs and the infiltration of drugs into our society. I blamed all of that. But what I stopped doing was blaming my mother. She didn't know any better, the same way no one knows. And she did her best, because in my book, when you read Carolina Girl, once my mother got herself together, she came back and she got her children. She did the best that she could. She fell into religion. And while I don't, that was a whole story in itself. My mother did the best that she could, and I'm forever grateful for her, because, again, being in education, there are a whole bunch of children who had it worse than I did. I was never hungry. I never slept outside of four walls. You understand? I was never abused, sexually or where I was harmed. There were plenty of problems, but it could have been worse for me. But my mother did the best that she could, and I'm forever grateful to her as a single parent with all of her issues to do what she did for us. And so, no, I blamed her at first before ignorance. Now, no, I don't.
See, I really admire that about you, because a lot of kids blame their parents, even when they become an adult. I mean, like 50. So I hear like people that are 50 years old and 60 years old. Oh, I am like this because my dad didn't do this, because my mom didn't do this. But you talk about your mother with grace, with gratitude, and this is something that people today, adult and young people, should do. That should really stop blaming someone, uh, and start the process of understanding why the person did certain thing, why the person or what that person went through, because she was she's human just like all of us,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes we forget the humanity part of us, and we just go and blame others for a situation. But you speak of her with grace and gratitude, so that is very, very, very nice of
Yeah,
you doing
I
that.
love that. But I'm grateful you also acknowledge her traumas, that intergenerational trauma, but also that mother wound is still there, because that's something we carry as we get older, right? And so, but also sharing that story with others, because perhaps they can find it in their heart to forgive them for what they didn't know. Because sometimes we think parents know everything, right? And so we expect them to know, but you think about her mom and her mom before, in terms of doing what they can based on the time, based on their circumstances, and be able to still provide for you.
Mhm.
But you also the ability to grow. I mean, that is beyond self growth. Just see that, right? And then to be able to go beyond, again, like the environment, your circumstances, but imagine what's going on in your mind, to have the mindset and self awareness to say, you know what, I can go beyond that, but not just survive and say I'm gonna get out, but to be able to thrive in spite, and sometimes because of what you've been through. So you know better, right? And so you have a different view of where you want to go, but also what's possible, because you know they didn't have that opportunity. So that's a great
Absolutely.
message to share with the kids too.
Thank you.
LaTasha, so
Yes.
what advice do you have for a young girl, perhaps a young boy too, having a parent addicted to drugs, uh, with a lot of dysfunctions? And so, what advice do you have for a young person currently living in a situation like this?
So again, I reckon education. I encounter children who have the same background as me. It may be worse, it may be less. At this very moment, you're dependent upon your circumstances. Where you are as a child, you are dependent. And I wish someone told me this when I was at that age. You are dependent upon your circumstances. There's really nothing or not much you can change about where you are.
Mhm.
But what is your preparation right now to ensure that when you are independent or when you have to be independent, how prepared are you? You understand? When your family stops taking care of you, when you're old enough to leave the nest, when you have to find a job or a career, you have to feed yourself, when you have to clothe yourself, when you have to pay your own bills,
Mhm.
what is your preparation right now to ensure that you are able to do that? You know, we have our own paths, right? It may be salary, it may be hourly, but what we do right now, education, you know, as far as our education, we're preparing ourselves to be able to support ourselves 5, 6 years from now. What are you doing to prepare yourself for that endeavor?
Mhm.
And I always, what happens if the people that take care of you now are no longer existing? And I never, you know, I don't say if they die because that's traumatic, but what if when you're on your own, how are you going to take care of yourself?
Mhm.
I'm a strong advocate for education, right? We get into this debt with student loans, trying to go to college because we can't afford to pay for it. But for some of us, it's necessary. College isn't the end all be all. What is your skill set? How are you preparing yourself to do hair or cut hair or fix floors or fix plumbing to be able to maintain a lifestyle that is sustainable for you to feed yourself?
Mhm.
And so my advice is, what are you doing right now? Because it's never too early to figure that out. How are you preparing yourself to be independent? That's something you should start thinking about now. Even as a sixth grader or a seventh grader or a 12th grader or a ninth grader. What do you want to do when you can? Because there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And a lot of the children I encounter, it's always that fast money. But do you want to live your life looking over your shoulder, being afraid every day, possibly losing all this at the drop of dime during death or jail? So the legitimate way to do these things, what are you going to do right now, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, to prepare yourself? And sometimes, most times that hits home. Let's start now with just being knowledgeable and being educated, putting ourselves in positions. By the time we're an adult, we're able to have, we're able to make a decision, or we're able to be on a trajectory to where we can sustain a livelihood. And so that's always my advice. What are you doing right now? Because it's inevitable. You're going to get to that point to where at some point you're going to take care of yourself. No one told me that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I just so happen to be in a position or a place to at least have an opportunity to make minimum wage or to make the entry level salary to be able to at least sustain a living for myself. But I was also dependent upon other people until I was able to do it myself. And so I always ask children to think about what you're doing right now to be able to, you know, longevity. What are you doing now that's preparing you for your future?
Just like Peter Drucker says, the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Mm.
What are you doing now
Strong.
to predict your future? What are you creating to predict your future?
Yeah,
Yes,
So,
sir.
so powerful, so powerful.
it is. It is.
We are going to take a short break.
Okay.
And I just want to remind the audience watching live, please like and share this live and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that we can continue bringing content like this to you. This is so inspiring and so motivational for anyone, adult or whether you're a young boy, young girl. This information is so crucial to understand that whatever path you've had, however you grew up, there's still a chance for you to change things around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I have a mentor, Rene Godefroy. He wrote a book, No Condition is Permanent. Kiss your excuses goodbye. So many times we just make love with our excuses.
Mm,
We have so many things like, we just caress the idea, oh, so and so is responsible for my pain, and John is responsible. No,
yeah.
it is true that someone may have hurt you. It is true that someone may have done something that could ruin your life, but you are still breathing. You are still
Mhm.
alive. You have an opportunity to turn things around for your life, for you.
Yeah. I love that.
Yes. So powerful, LaTasha. So let's go ahead and take a short break. We'll be right back with Miss LaTasha Clemmons. And when we come back, I'd love for you to read a little bit, either one or two paragraphs of your book, The Kalana Girl, because I
Okay.
truly believe this book is so interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Not a problem.
Human race is unique. Despite our many differences, religion, beliefs, race, skin color, or personal prejudices, there's still one thing that holds our world together. We are all human. We have, however, failed to see the beauty in the uniqueness of humankind, and this is only because we have been blinded by hate, bigotry, envy, and fear. We have let hatred rule us, even divide us, and fear keeps us from fixing the mess. But it's time to wake up and see that everyone is created equal, perfect, and no different. Yes, it is true that people have been born into unequal circumstances, which oftentimes leads them to make choices either good or bad, but we are still the same regardless. At this point, you may be asking, how can this be? This book will help you find out how there are no differences at all. Hello there. You should know that no matter the color of your skin, race, gender, economic rank, sexual identity, or social status, we are all human before anything else. In our diversities, we can still achieve oneness. Hatred may have ripped us apart, but there is still a way to mend the tear if only we can fix ourselves first, letting the uniqueness of the human race reflect inward, and then to the outside, healing the human race. It is important that we mend the tear, and more importantly, that we do it now. This book will serve as a guide to healing.
Welcome back with my co-host, Dr. Marie Celestin, and my special guest today, Miss LaTasha Clemmons. And your book, Carolina Girl.
Mhm.
Who is this book for?
Um, when so I've been writing. I wrote this. I've been writing this book for the past 20 years. Um, but when it became reality, I was able to write it from a place to where it didn't come from anger. It didn't come from regret. It didn't come from a place of ignorance. I grew up a lot, right? My book is for young people, young adults who may have endured my situation or something similar to it or something worse or something less. It's a book about perseverance and identity, and it explains that what you endure and the lessons and the morals and the values and your own experiences that you're taught as a child, you can always overcome those things, take what you need from those lessons, but become the person that you want to be. But it's all about accepting the help and the support from coaches and mentors and teachers. But it's all about where you end up in life, and it's using everything, where you're from, what you are, who you are, and what was instilled in you to become the best person that you can become. And so I wrote it. At the end of it, it's for them. It's for anyone who questions their upbringing, who questions their lessons and morals in life. You can be who you want to be, but everything that was given to you is a part of who you become. It's just what you make of it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, wow. So for anyone watching this live, this book, The Carolina Girl, this book could be a source of strength, a source of inspiration for young people, even adults facing adversity, people who feel lost and hopeless. You
Mm-hmm.
know, reading this book can really bring you to a better place where you can say, you know what, I am able, I am able to get out of my situation. My condition is not permanent. I
Right.
can break through. So
Yeah.
it's so powerful.
I love
Mm-hmm.
that. But also your past is not your future, right?
Not,
Because
yeah.
you show that, like, and they can see that in you, right? Because here you are sharing your story. Your story is still valid in terms of, yes, you've been through that, but they can see there's a way out. And as Yvener is saying, it's temporary, that you
Mm-hmm.
come through it, and in a way you come through it even stronger, for that to be part of your present, but your legacy. They can see that that's gonna keep on giving as well to future generations. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah.
So I don't want people to think that everything was just horrible, right? There are a lot of things that I take with me from my upbringing. I'm a very clean person because of the chores that were mandatory. I think I'm a very respectful person. And being in DC, I don't require children to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and that was my upbringing, correct, right? I had to kind of structure or change some of my beliefs on how children should interact with adults because of how I was raised. I was from the South. Um, when you get into education, children have a voice. Children should be able to explain themselves and express themselves. Whereas, how I was raised, you stay in a child's place, do as I say, not as I do. But it was hard not to do the things that you saw because it was so prevalent. And
Hmm.
so I don't want anyone to think that nothing that I endured as a child isn't a part of me, because all of it is. But I had to kind of reconsider some of the things that were instilled in me being raised in the South. Like the great part about it is I am who I am because of that. But not necessarily everything I was taught would benefit children in 2021.
Hmm.
And so that's my whole thing is, I take at this point what I was taught and how I was raised. I take it with a grain of salt. Some of it, a lot of it I use. Some of it I just have to question and reconsider and restructure for children during this day and time.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Would you care uh, reading your favorite quote or your favorite paragraph from your book?
Yes, so I can read a paragraph from it. My favorite quote is, "I use books to escape."
Hmm.
No, I use books to dream. I use music to escape. So I live vicariously through a lot of the characters that I read as I've always been an avid reader. So I always vicariously live through a lot of the characters that I read growing up as a child, even when those characters and their environments didn't resemble my environment. So it was always nice to live differently than what I saw. But once I'm an 80s baby, so by the time the 90s came, I listened to music to escape. I listened to those verses of my favorite rappers and my favorite R&B singers, just kind of being a different realm to be somewhere else, and it related to me.
Who's your
But
favorite
I'll
rapper?
read the chapter. Say it again.
As you just mentioned, your favorite rapper. Who's your favorite rapper?
My favorite rapper, I have two. So it's Jay-Z and Andre 3000.
Ooh. Okay, that's a combination. I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna be like Queen Latifah is in the
Look,
mix.
I thought
it's
you were gonna say Tupac.
So I mean, when I was coming up, you hear the music, but by the time I started paying attention to what the music was saying for real,
Hmm.
Jay Z stood out to me. Outkast stood out to me. Just the cadence and the words and the wordplay and the literary elements of what they had to say kind of resonated with me. And that kind of got me to writing.
Nice.
So I've always been like a music lover, but just really falling in love with the wordplay. Those artists kind of stood out to me. So
you listen to the lyrics, not just the beat, right?
not just the beat, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same for me. I I listen to lyrics and a lot of Tupac music. I like Tupac.
I love Tupac. I
Because
love Biggie.
I can understand his rap.
Mm.
Today's rap I cannot understand, and I would try to listen. They do not enunciate, but Tupac, you can hear every word he's rapping.
It's so. I mean, again, like growing up, like it was like I'm a huge TLC fan. I love like Queen Latifah and MC Light. Like you didn't see it in TV per se, but when you got to the Queen Latifahs and the MC Lights and the Brad, you had strong, dominant women. Salt and Pepper was everything. That was my first cassette tape ever in life, was Salt and Pepper, right? So you recognize and you realize you had strong role models as women, but it was from a place to where you didn't know you needed a role model. So you listen to the music, right? Public Enemy, KRS-One, even when NWA came out, I started to hear these messages, and I think a lot of people negate what rap music first started out as, even with the vulgarness of their lyrics. They were telling a story of what they were enduring and how they lived. That wasn't necessarily my experience. And I don't know what made me do it as a child to start to pay attention to what I was listening to. Now I'm like, oh my God, what is going on in the world? Is this really happening outside of Casey, South Carolina?
You were a critical thinker at an early age.
And I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And so by the time I really started listening to it, once I started, it was more so in high school. Once I really started listening to the lyrics of the things I was listening to, that compelled me to start writing. Well, they are telling their truths. They're telling their story in a creative way. I want to do the same. I didn't necessarily want to be a rapper. And then I started reading Maya Angelou's work, right? So now I want to write. I want to write about how I feel and what I think in the same way that my favorite rappers are doing, to tell a story and to give a message. And so that kind of stuck out to me, is when I really, really, really started paying attention to music outside of like just as a child. Like, okay, I hear you. Sounds good. It's amazing. But now I'm in a place as a teenager to where, okay, I can tell them, I can give a message. And so music does it. Like, I don't get what's going on today, and that just speaks to my age. I always knew once I started not listening to what's going on, I'm old. So,
You've evolved.
I've evolved.
Evolved, not old.
Your taste.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you were about to share a paragraph with us.
Yeah.
Yes. This is from chapter 2 in my book. It's in the blood. This chapter kind of, without giving away the story, because I want everyone to read it. My grandmother died from breast cancer. And before her death, there was a strong emphasis on family, how important they were, how close-knit we were. And so it starts off, you ain't got no damn friends, only associates. Family gonna always be there for you before anybody else. This mantra was the gist of the importance of family as it was explained to me as a child. Understanding the importance of family was just as important as knowing that God gave his only begotten son because he loved the world so much. Grandma had 10 siblings that I knew of. 8 of them lived either around the corner of Charlotte Avenue or down the street from us. It was almost impossible to walk past anyone in the neighborhood and not hear, "What's up, cuz?" or "What's good, little Bobby?" Since I am the spitting image of my mother, a lot of her cousins called me little Bobby when they saw me. There were so many McLeans in the area that half of the time I didn't know it was a cousin speaking to me. There was no sanctity when I gave my life to Christ, so it was easy for me to eventually dispel this notion of a tight-knit family.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, thank you. And for the viewers watching the live, and you, can you tell? And obviously, this book is available on Amazon. And
Yes.
what what other platform do you have this book available beside Amazon?
Um, it's on Amazon and it's on Kobo. I think that's what it's called.
Kobo. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Kobo. It's a Spark, but mainly so on Amazon. I'm currently working on the web page. I sell a lot of books. I order authors copies. When when I'm creating speaking engagements, or if I'm just out and about, I'm telling people about my story, I can sell it there, but mainly on Amazon.
Mainly Amazon. Okay. Do
Mm-hmm.
you also have the book on audio?
We're working on that. So the audio will be released in the spring.
Awesome, awesome. Because a lot of people like to listen.
Yeah.
Like a book like this is which very, very inspiring. It would be great to have an audio when you're taking a walk, even when you're at the grocery store, just listening to it
Mm-hmm.
like this, like this.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Oh, that is so, so, so inspiring. And
Yeah. Is that you on the cover?
Yes,
Oh, my
that is.
glasses.
So the book is a lot of '90s nostalgia, and so if you're a Nas fan, when you see the cover of Nas's book, you see the cover of him in his background, and so that's what I was going with the cover. So that is me as a child, but in the background you see Columbia, South Carolina.
Mm. Oh yeah, that's the map
Yep. Yep.
of your
Yes,
state.
All
yes,
right.
that is my picture as a child.
Wow. I like this cover. So this cover really describes you, your identity,
The
Yes,
origin.
who you are, where you're from.
yes.
Wow, so powerful. Very good job on the cover.
Thank you. I love it. That was my goal.
Very
You
good
did a
job.
really good job with the cover.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so right after this live, we're going to have about 15 minutes live on IG,
Okay.
and which is something that we started doing. And Dr. Marie, and I got to give you credit for that. Uh, you gave that suggestion to have the 15-minute live because when we have wonderful authors and speakers like Miss Clemmons, and because Restream does not allow us to stream live on Instagram,
Mhm.
so we have to, to bring it
Yes.
to our Instagram viewers.
Spread the message. To
Yeah,
a
spread
button.
this
Spread
message
the
because
message.
this is a message that really, really can help someone um, get out of the negative thoughts. Because when we have a childhood, we've went through things. We sometimes spend our entire life never forgive ourselves and
Mm.
never forgive our past. And by reading this book, that can really help you have some type of empathy for yourself, grace for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because without grace for yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to move forward.
Yeah. And somebody mentioned in the chat that self-love, right? Where you can feel what you receive from your mentors and teachers,
Mhm.
and mom and family, but now you know you're worthy of love. You're worthy of, everything you've been dreaming about as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And final question: do you have anybody that you're mentoring right now?
So I'm an educator. I am an administrator in DC public schools. I have over 600 children that I'm mentoring. Um, my babies are everything. What I do every single day in life is to ensure that children, if they that they know they have an opportunity, So when I wake up and I go to my career, my job, every single day, I'm finding a way to encourage, motivate, inspire children to be their best selves. I am the disciplinarian. I am the culture coordinator. I oversee all the behavior. I hold children accountable. But a lot of that work is about their social emotional well being. And so every single day for the past 16 years, it's been my goal to help children the way that I was helped by an educator. I didn't know that was my purpose at first, but that is my goal every single day, to hold children accountable and to let them know that they can do and be anything that they want to be, and that's every day.
That is so powerful. I did say final question. However, it's a question that I ask every guest.
One more.
I am not going to skip you, LaTasha. I'm not going to skip you. According to you,
Mm-hmm.
and I have asked that same questions to every guest that come on the show, including Dr. Marie. How do we heal the human race?
Wow, that is a heavy question.
That's the magic questions. It's the
So, I mean, it's not an answer. I think that more so, how do we begin to heal the human race? We have to have empathy and we have to have compassion. And everyone has to be in a place to learn the differences of individuals. We are all not the same. We all don't come from the same place. We all don't endure the same experience. And it's that understanding that comes with the human race that will allow everyone to be a little more compassionate about other people's experience. I think that can be done. It's not, impossible, but to accept people for who they are or where they are, and find a place to build and grow and learn and understand and at least be compassionate about where they're from, whether we agree or not, that catapults us into a place to begin to heal the human race. We have to accept the differences and we have to appreciate those differences as something that we can learn from and something that we probably could use in our own endurance of this world. And so to accept that, we can begin to heal the human race.
Wow. See, Dr. Marie, she could co-author the book.
Message right there. Yes.
She could easily co-author my book.
Yes. The message. It's all about the message.
That's
It's all
it.
about the message. In other words, we are all alike, we're all human, but we are born into unequal circumstances.
And
Only
we
way
have
to
to understand that in order for us to begin
yes.
changing, healing the world. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so very much, LaTasha.
Thank you.
It's been, oh my goodness, this is by far one of the best.
Thank you so much.
One of the best. So we appreciate you and everyone watching. Thank you so much for staying with us for the last 60 minutes. I invite you to check out the book. Let me put it back on the screen. The Carolina Girl. Get this book. Get it for a friend. Get it for a loved one. Get it for a coworker.
Right.
Yes.
Get it for a coworker. And
That's a beautiful
it's still
gift.
the holiday season. Get it for you.
Yes.
Get it for yourself. This book, I promise you, it will inspire you. Not only it will inspire you, it will help you see yourself and see the world around you differently. So thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you.